So today I'll be running you through this basic concept of how to we all are familiar to some extent how to create visualizations in Tableau and Power BI, but we will cover some aspects which make these visualizations more effective. So that's the intent behind this. Some of the concepts at which may have used or we will discuss in this session. Some of you may have already known about it, but this session will be a good collation of similar such points so that it will bring us all on the same page as to get to better visualizations. So we'll start with some basic fundamentals. It's needless to say or explain for us that what value a data visualization brings when analyzing data. But just for the sake of understanding it a little better, we will take a quick example and see what a visualization actually does, right? So what we'll do is, let us say yeah, we all are familiar with solar eclipses. Let us say you are trying to analyze or get some information related to solar eclipses that happened up until now, and maybe that will happen in the future. Okay, and let's say you contacted some scientist and they or some whoever the responsible people, and they gave you the data related to all the eclipses that have happened in the past and that will happen in the future as well. Ignore the dates for now here, but let's say this is the data. Let's say you have gotten 1, 2 eclipses and which cities it goes through at what time, etc., etc. This data you have. Now, obviously, let's say you're curious and asking questions related to simple questions. Hey, when is the immediate next eclipse? Which city? Where can I see it at the nearest point from my location? So these sort of questions, obviously, we can ask, and we can ask as many questions as we want, and we can increase the complexity also. Like if you see the second question there, what is the longest and eclipse, right? So eclipse need not always cover entire path of or curvature on the earth, right? So shortest and longest, if you want to know, what are the nearest points between two eclipse points? Say there is a eclipse that happened 2 years ago and there is eclipse that happens now, and what is the nearest point of intersection or nearest these two eclipses are coming together. So if you want to understand all these questions, and these questions can get more and more complex. From the data above, if you have to get that, so it requires a lot of, you can imagine how difficult it may be to answer these questions. Some simple questions, yes, but as the complexity increases, it may get more and more laborious to get those questions answered. So now let us look at this particular visualization on the right, which is built on the same data set and which has this sort of a eclipse path on the Earth's curvature that was written. So this is a very interactive visualization. So what we'll do is I will quickly navigate to that particular page. Hopefully you should be able to see so this is a visualization that is posted on Washington Post quite a while back. And if you put in your year, it basically tells that, hey, a date of year on which you're born. So it'll uh, uh, okay. So this is a little outdated one, but it'll basically tell up until the next 100 years how many more eclipses that has. It's just a summary, but let's focus more on the visualization itself. So one thing that you can see here is a lot of questions at which we felt are complex can be easily answered from this one. You can see the ones which are in darker shade are basically the ones that are coming much earlier, and the ones which are coming much later towards the next 100 years, they are in a slightly lighter shade. And there is one specific eclipse that is highlighted in orange. And we can also see, based on our location, which eclipse falls closest to us and when it falls closest to us. And further, all the questions we can see as well. So which is the longest one? I can specifically hover on one and see which one has how much distance transfers, right, covered and all that. So, and apart from those questions, you can also see some unique patterns also emerging, right? If we go towards the poles, you can see that these solar eclipses tend to take more circular shape, whereas both on the upper pole and the north pole and the southern pole, and you can see on the other ones, like towards the latitude and all, they get slightly elongated. So this is something else that which we have some patterns that which we are seeing visually as well. So yeah, so visualization helps you get to all the such complicated questions very easily, and also identify some patterns which are usually difficult to get it directly from the data. So this is how we know why visualizations are much more valuable. And the same in this specific example, this is the case, but usually in the business scenario, also this applies, that visualizations helps them uh, get key questions answered very easily from their business data and identify patterns and take necessary actions accordingly. So this is how we know that visualizations is very important. So in today's session, what we'll do is we will have a structured process as to how do we start from data and get to better visualizations and dashboards. So we will take step-by-step approach. First, we will see how do we get to from data to questions to visualizations, and then we will see what are the steps that we have to take to make those visualizations a little better, and then build some very useful dashboards on the top of those visualizations. Okay, so these are the few steps that we'll be covering. So usually in any analysis that we have to build, usually a visual analytics dashboard or something, these are the steps that have to be covered starting from the data. So we have to ask right sets of questions first on the visualizations that we want to build, just like how we did in the solar eclipse cases. It's okay that these questions may not be all exhaustive, but it's important to start with some basic questions in the start, and then try to build visualizations on the top of that. So, and we will see how do we select the right visualization for the questions that you have come up with. And then once you identify the right visualization for your questions that you want, then we will see how do we make those visualizations a lot more effective. Effective, I mean, the questions that you want to answer, they need to be answered in a much simpler manner without much effort from the audience. So that is what we mean by making the visualization more effective. And lastly, we will look at some tips into how do we build dashboards in general to make it more useful for the audience. Towards the end, I will try to cover some other aspects, but this is the broad agenda for today's session. So first step, we will start from here. How do we ask right questions on the data, whatever the data that which we are dealing with? So the first thing that matters the most for asking right questions is your audience. You have to know to whom you're trying to create the visualizations, and knowing your audience and their objectives, what are they trying to achieve in that specific activity or exercise, will give you a lot of context that you need to, that will be very valuable for you in building your visualizations. So let's say, for example, there are three types of people: analysts, managers, and executive staff, for whom you are creating different sets of dashboards. And you can also see a level of hierarchy, right? Analysts reports to managers, and managers reports to, let's say, executive staff. Now, analysts, given their day-to-day responsibilities for each of these different roles at uh, uh, roles are different. So their expectations from a visualizations, the questions that they want to be answered from a visualizations will also vary. So we have to be conscious of this fact that depending upon the audience, we have to change the questions that we ask. So for an analyst, their nature is more like they want to know most detailed approach that which we have taken. So for example, this has been the same experience with me in one of my recent projects. Some of the analysts that I am working with on the client side. So if I have done some analysis, they are not just interested in the what is the final outcome of the analysis, but they thoroughly want to vet the entire approach. Hey, what is the process that you have followed? What are the different steps that you have taken? Why did you take that step, this step? So they are interested in all these details that build up the analysis rather than just the final outcome. So for when we create solutions for such people, uh, they will have these sort of expectations that they want to reuse that analysis if required. So that's why they are interested in the details, and they are a lot more technically inclined in comparison with the other two roles. Whereas if you move to the managers, I will give a short example that explains all these three different perspectives using a marketing scenario towards the end. But okay, on the manager side, they are not so much fully as inclined technically as analysts, but they do have some knowledge. But their goal will be primarily to improve processes. So, hey, let's say if there is an existing process and it is doing, it's performing at a certain level, how can I improve it further? Where can I do better? What needs to be done? So these sort of things is what a manager will be interested in, and something that they can basically they uh, seek insights so that they can act on whatever it is, wherever they need to improve or change, uh, etc., etc. Improve the efficiency of the process. And if you notice the difference between analyst and business managers and across this hierarchy, you will notice that the time factor, so basically time to analyze or look at your visualizations, will be something that is a very crucial factor that will keep on decreasing. So analysts will have a lot of time to spend on your dashboards and visualizations, whereas as we move up the ladder, the executive staff, but up until executive staff, this time to spend on your visualizations and dashboards will come down drastically. So that means the more up the ladder we move on. So we have to keep this time factor very into consideration and provide necessary stuff very accurately for that specific audience. So on the executive staff, we have high level of time consciousness. So they don't want to understand any technical stuff. They're usually uh, they will have some understanding, but they don't usually want to occupy themselves with all the details or what happened technically, all these sort of stuff. They don't want to occupy themselves with these things. They just want to get to the outright conclusions and what are the impact what is the impact it is going to create, either good or positive, whatever it is. So they just want to know the final outcomes and insights, that too well vetted outcomes and insights. So we can clearly see these three different roles, how their priorities are different. And that is why when we create visualizations, we have to understand to whom we are creating the visualizations and accordingly look from their point of view, uh, what are their priorities, what will basically they will be interested in to look at from that specific visualizations. Understanding these things will help you specifically cater for those audience. I'll give you a short example explaining these three roles in a marketing scenario and we'll move on. So let us say there is a marketing team for a specific company who's responsible for, let's say, running digital ads, digital marketing. Now, as a marketing analyst, your task will be to focus on create marketing campaigns, make sure that they are running on all the necessary ad platforms, and create and manage these campaigns. So that will be your more or less day-to-day task. So you will be interested in detail questions like which campaigns are working, why, what is working for a what campaign, if some campaign is working, if some campaigns are not working, why are they not working. So these sort of details is what a analyst would be interested in. But if you go to a manager level, so they would not just be interested at they will go slightly a level up, and they'll not be looking at maybe at the campaign level so much as an analyst, but they will look at the channel level. So hey, I just want to see how much are we spending on various channels, be it Google or social media ads, or some other ads, and how much are we spending, how much uh, conversions are we getting overall from each of these platforms, which platform is better, why it is better. So there is a slightly different slightly bigger picture that the manager is looking at. Obviously it doesn't mean that there is not intersection, but the priorities is what I'm telling. An analyst can also be looking for channel level insights, but the priorities will be different. That's what I'm telling. And if you go to an executive level, people here, let's say marketing president or someone like that, they may not even be interested in what channels are we advertising, which channels are working, how much and all. They'll just be interested in, okay, what is the overall spend that I have done in this fiscal year for marketing, and how much did it result for me in terms of revenue generated or increased sales, whatever. What is the cost and what is the impact overall? So, and these sort of very high level insights is what they would be looking for. If required, ability to drill down to slightly lower level details, but not very granular details. So this is how knowing your audience matters a lot in asking the right set of questions before you even start visualizations. So that is the very first step. And once you have the, let's say, right questions identified, then it's all about figuring out what is the visualization that you need to pick to answer that question. So here is where we have something called as visual vocabulary. Some of you may have already been introduced to this in the past. So there are broadly under visual vocabulary, there are something called as functions, and there are 9 functions of visualizations. And the benefit, the goodness of these functions is that whatever the question that you may come up with in the previous exercise, all those questions will most of the times tend to fall in one of these uh, functions of visualizations, one or multiple of these functions. Um, and let me just give you a quick example. Let's say you are interested in identifying, hey, I want to look at the sales trend over time. That falls under the function called change over time, where you're looking at something, some metric change over the time. And let's say you're interested in looking at which channels are giving me better conversions or better ROI, then you're looking at something called as ranking. You're trying to rank channels based on their a specific KPI you're measuring. Let's say you're performing target analysis. Hey, there are salespeople with each one of them having their own targets. How many of them have uh, uh, reached their targets or not for the specific month? So that is what we call as deviation function. So how much are they deviating from their original target? So likewise, each and every question that you come up with will fall under 9 of any of these functions. And from these functions, uh, each of these functions have a dedicated set of charts that are recommended by visualization experts. You're not a, you may not be able to read the text through. We'll take a better look at this thing. But this is called, in short, visual vocabulary. And on the top, you can see all the 9 functions and appropriate charts that we can use if your question falls under any of those functions. So what I'll do is I'll quickly navigate us to a better version of this one. So this is a visual vocabulary that the same thing that which we are talking about. Tableau has created this visual vocabulary for everyone to reference. These are all the 9 functions that which we are just talking about: change over time, deviation, ranking, part to whole, etc., etc. I will not go in detail, but I'll share this for each one of you to go through. And let's say if I go to change over time, there is a specific chart here, a separate sheet for that each function. Just give it 1 second. So these are all the charts that one can build if their question is falling under change over time. But um, can we pick any chart if your question is falling under this function? Not necessarily. There is a possibility, but you have to further uh, pick what is the best chart for your specific use case, depending upon other factors. Like let's say, for example, here we are looking at a yearly level trend. So when your number of data points that you're showing, the trend line is much less uh, or much higher, then you have to go for a line chart rather than a bar chart. But when you're going for a trend line which is showing relatively smaller points, less than 4 or 5, uh, it is recommended that you go with a bar chart or something like that. So I'll quickly show. So there are certain descriptions like that that are present right here. Uh, and if you are trying to go with uh, uh, multiple metrics, so in this chart we are only showing one metric, which is sales, but here we have sales and profit. So then this chart may be relevant for you. Let's say if you're trying to plot something like a stock price, then this type of a chart may be relevant for you. So this is just an example, but the idea is depending upon what information that you want to show, you have to pick the right chart. If you're trying to show some forecasting that is involved, maybe this chart that is relevant for you. And if you're showing something like a, timelines chart for any project or any activity, then something like this, a Gantt chart or similar stuff may be also useful. So likewise, for each function, there are specific recommendations uh, 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 that you can follow up depending on specific criteria. So this will give you, for the questions that you have gotten with, what are the right visualizations that you can use. Coming back to our presentation. Yeah. So once you have so basically from the data you get questions using visual vocabulary, you will get to the right visualizations that are appropriate for those questions. And now once you have the visualizations, the next step is to convert those visualizations into something bit more effective, right? So uh, the we have already discussed why we need them to make effective. So a visualization, anyone create a visualization, but helping, so the same point that Chaitanya was talking about, 5-second principle, to effectively communicate the information we want to communicate in a much easier manner. So this step is a critical step. So here the concept is very simple. Most of you already know it and do it well without realizing it, but this is a very key concept as well. Maybe knowing it consciously will help us play with it much better when we create visualizations. So there is something called as pre-attentive attributes. So it's a very simple concept. As the name suggests, pre-attentive attribute means I will actually, let me describe this. So look at the visualization on the right, and it talks about all the pre-attentive attributes that we can play with in a visualization. And as you may have already as seen from the visualization, it's clear the pre-attentive attribute, it's nothing but a visual attribute that requires no attention for you to pay, for you to identify it. So even before you start paying attention, you know that there is something there. So for example, this particular line is standing out. this line is standing out for some reason, this line is standing out, this mark is standing out here for different reason. So there are these different attributes that which we can use to incorporate in your visualizations to make basically the nature of these attributes is such that they grab attention in a much instantaneous manner. How do we the learning from this particular point is that we have to transfer whatever this ability is there, the pre-attentiveness, and be able to understand something or pick something to our visualizations as well. And we can use these attributes as usual. So when we use a right mix of these attributes in our visualizations, the same traits, hey, being able to quickly identify something, uh, uh, those will be transferred to our visualizations as well and making them much more effective. We will, to demonstrate this, what we will do is we will take a look at some examples where these pre-attentive attributes have converted some of the basic visualizations into something very good visualization. So what I'll do is okay, I'll share my Tableau screen. Okay, got it. So hopefully you should be able to see my Tableau screen. Okay, so I will, before I explain these visualizations, I will just give you a small context. I'm slightly running out of time. Um, imagine that there is a data that is given to you which represents all the endangered species of animal kingdom, and you want to portray, hey, and the intensity at which that particular specific has been endangered, right? And you want to visualize this information for others to get a sense of, hey, which species is more endangered and which is less endangered, and etc. These sort of information, let's say you want to show. One can obviously go with uh, this type of a bar chart where the length of the bar is representing the intensity of that specific species how endangered it is. And we can get the information. It's not like it's a wrong visualization. It is a right visualization. We can get the necessary information that we want. That African elephant is the most endangered one. And if I scroll to the left, bottom most, I will get the least endangered animal and what are the next endangered animals, by how much they are endangered. So there is nothing wrong in these visualizations, but it is still a very basic visualization. Now, how do we make it better? Now, let us try to look at visualization where the pre-attentive attributes are incorporated, and we will quickly analyze what attributes that have been incorporated. So if you look at the same visualization, same data, but that has been represented something like this. So here, please take a moment and see what all pre-attentive attributes that you may, so obviously it is looking much better than the previous one. And you will not only see that it is from a look and feel point of view, it is looking much better, but from the way it communicates the key information is also very has become very effective. So if you see the same African elephant, it is grabbing the attention here. And first, before I explain the visualizations, please try to observe what pre-attentive attributes have been incorporated here. So see, first of them we can see is the size. So different animal sizes, they have now been incorporated as per their scale in reality, right? So as compared to a monkey, there is an elephant. The size is relative as compared to a human and all that, right? And then we have, so that is one pre-attentive attribute, size. Then there is color, which showcases the intensity of how endangered that species is. And what else we have? And we have some, there is something called as location as well. It's not like uh, uh, a monkey is placed in between rhinos, or a monkey is placed in between reindeers, or etc. So we can see all the close by related species, they have been placed together, right? So that is also another attribute, the positioning of these data points. And yeah, size, color, position, and what else can we see? Anything else? Uh, of now, so those are the three attributes. Maybe one or two other can also be there, but we can see how incorporating those pre-attentive attributes and changing the layout a bit, how effective this particular visualization has become. So I will not spend further time on it. I'll share this with you for you to explore it a little further, but I'll quickly walk you through similar couple of other examples. Just we'll look at the before and after versions, and we will move further. So this is directly picked from the Tableau repository. So now let us look at another similar example. Here we are trying to showcase the temperature changes for each of the different months across, I think, if I'm not wrong, various years. So this is the basic visualization, and here what they are recommending is, hey, it's good, this visualization is looking good, but using the appropriate colors would make it much better. So earlier, for lower temperatures, they're showing as red color, and the higher temperatures, they're showing as green color, which is not actually conveying the contextual meaning. So one small change, like using the right colors, will make it better. And here there is a similar chart where we have various Airbnb sites in, if I don't know, San Francisco. And currently, what they have done is they have just portrayed some scatter plots or location plot. And on the updated version, they have used colors, size a bit more effectively, and we can see uh, the result there. And likewise here, they are now trying to, what is this one about? Mm, yeah, here they are trying to look at some albums that were created by Beatles band, and they're trying to see uh, some likability metric that they're trying to plot. Obviously, this visualization, the information that they want to show is at what year it was released, what is the likability factor, and etc. Various albums on the bottom. Obviously, this is a functional visualization. We can get the necessary information, but it's not very outright easy to read. The names are not visible at all. Uh, it's difficult to slightly uh, uh, not very look from a look and feel point of view as well. So what they have done is they have given it a good layout, and they have uh, and restructured the visualization in a better manner, that the names are a little visible, and they're also slightly comparable with which much, but you can see the difference. I'll share this thing, please explore this further. And likewise here as well, similar visualization, they have made some changes, and instead of cramming everything into a single dashboard, they are now recommending that we do it in a story format. So you get the idea, but playing with those visual attributes, pre-attentive attributes, will help you change from a basic visualization, functional visualization, to a something which is much more effective. So now, having known, like uh, having built some good visualizations, so how do we put together a dashboard out of these visualizations? Is what we'll look, and we will quickly close from here. So dashboards in very short brief, they'll be put into 4 different categories. Understanding these categories can help you build that specific dashboard with a very high quality. So for example, there are I'll quickly just showcase, there are 4 different types of dashboards that are possible. One is the executive dashboard, where you are building these dashboards for the executive staff usually, and and we have just seen how their priorities will be different from the rest of the members in the organization in terms of what information they want to look at. They are just interested in overall big picture, not into so much into details. They are looking ahead and seeing how the long-term future is looking for the company, these sort of aspects. So usually when we focus dashboards that are specifically for these active purposes, that is what we call executive dashboard. And on the operational side, this has a very little insight into the future, but it focuses on the current time. So, hey, currently what is happening, where things are getting stuck, where can I improve? These sort of activities are properly built in the operational dashboards. And then there are tactical dashboards. Tactical dashboards, more or less, just give me 1 second, help you basically sort of like tracking your progress. There is a specific goal. How do you reach them? How much you are lacking behind? These sort of things is one simple example, but there can be multiple more other examples as well. Analytical dashboards is where these are the dashboards that you build for the uh, uh, analysts. Probably they will be the most predominant users for these sort of dashboards, where they do the analysis by themselves. So they don't need the dashboards which showcases the insights directly, but they need the dashboard to redo the analysis again and again if required, every day or every week, wherever, and keep they need the ability to generate insights, but not by themselves. So that is why these dashboards will be little differently built. So these are all the broad, but the executive dashboard, it will not have, since they will not have time, these dashboards will not focus so much on making them do the analysis, but it will be very cooked up analysis. Hey, we already do the analysis and present them, whereas on the analytical side, we'll create it in a such a way that they will further be able to continue or redo the analysis whenever they require. So these are the 4 different types of dashboards. And for each of these dashboards, if there are 5 pointers that which we have to usually keep in mind to make them a little uh, much effective. Depending upon the dashboard that you're building and the audience for whom you are building, identify the uh, key metrics which they will be interested in. So that is a very important thing, and you have to place them in a right place as well. So for that, you have to come up with a very optimal layout. We have seen in the examples just prior how a layout can change everything in some of the examples that which we have seen, from good to great examples. So picking up a right layout is also very important for each dashboard. Try to provide a comparison for all the key KPIs that they need to look at, if it is feasible. And yeah, you have to design the dashboard that allows uh, 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 simply that is simple to use and easy to comprehend. And especially more important, make the dashboards uh, 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 live. So basically live in the sense, make them more interactive for the users, so they can drill down to details, play with filters, these sort of activities. So this is another aspect of the uh, uh, five things to look at when we want to uh, build the dashboards. So what I'll do is I'll actually pause here